G'day everybody, Julian here with some more spreadsheet hacks for farmers. Today we're going to look at the VLOOKUP function, which is V for vertical lookup. We use the vertical lookup function to marry two sets of data together that are otherwise separate. So there's usually something in common that links the two together. And the classic example that I'm going to look at today is using RFIDs to connect data from two separate data references. So this is something that we do quite often on farm, trying to marry the data from, say, processor or feedlot induction feedback with our own farm records. We might want to be pulling up our own management tag or our NLIS ID, or maybe the last weight we had on them on farm, so that we can figure out our dressing percentages or our shrink on an individual basis. While we're at it, we'll have a look at manipulating some data in text files to get it into a spreadsheet friendly format, which is a bit of a common problem I have with one certain processor. And we'll chat a little bit about managing NLIS IDs and management tag data. Enjoy the ride. Cheers. So here I've got a couple of spreadsheets. One with the data from preg testing, where I've got my RFIDs and my visual IDs, some weights and some preg test results. But I want to look up the joining weights from back in October when I had a different set of scales operating and don't have them automatically marrying up. So this is pretty straightforward to do. I'm going to have a column over here called joining weight. And we start by putting our VLOOKUP function in. So to put any function in a cell, you start with an equal sign, start typing the function name. We can just click on it when it gets suggested to us because it matches what we've typed so far. And we can see here we've got to pass it 4 different parameters. So the first thing to pass it is the lookup value. So what are we looking up? We're looking up this RFID. The second thing we're going to look up is the table array. So which data are we looking in? Now I'm going to jump over to our other worksheet, mid-formula, and just highlight where the data is that we're going to query. There we go. Hit my comma, so we jump to the next bit of the formula. Now it wants to know, of the data we've just selected, or the data we're going to look in, which column do we return with the result? So we want the second column. So we just put number 2. Another comma to get to the fourth and final parameter. And that's asking whether we do an approximate match or an exact match. So you're pretty much always going to choose exact match, which puts the word false in there. Now just close our brackets, and there we have our complete function. So it's pulling up for this particular animal that the pre-joining weight was 363. So the neat thing in spreadsheets is auto-filling or copying a formula or whatever we've got in one cell. Can be the formatting as well. And auto-filling to wherever we drag it. And so just by dragging that corner handle, we can autofill these cells. Now this does a pretty neat thing in that if we look at the first part of the formula, just above my cursor here, A3, as I move down the cells, it's automatically updating so that it's looking up the right RFID for each function. But what it's doing wrong is changing the lookup table we're also looking in, because that stays static. That's a bunch of rows that should stay as A2 to B103. The quick and easy way to fix that is to make those absolute rows by putting a $sign in front of them. A $sign changes something from being relative to absolute. We could put it in front of the letters too, but we're not moving from column to column, so that doesn't really have an impact on us. So if I hit enter, we now can drag and fill those formulas, and we'll get the relative first bit of the cell updating with each row, but we've got our range that we're looking at staying the same. Now before I move on, I'll just show you an even better way to achieve that, and that's using a named range. So let's just jump over here, highlight this set of data and name it. So choose define name from the right click menu. Give it something friendly like October kgs. Okay. And back here, when we're writing our formula, instead of having this in our formula, which can be a little bit hard to sanity check, I'm just going to delete that, and we're going to replace that with that name we created. Now we don't have to remember it exactly, we just have to remember what it started with, which was October. And you'll see it gets suggested here, which is pretty clever. So we'll just click on that. If I hit enter now, we've now got a more bulletproof way of filling these formulas. I'll just watch the formula appear as I go down. You'll see October kg stays, and our cell reference changes for each row. So I'm going to drag that down and fill the rest of the sheet. And there you have it. We have basically looked up another data source and appended it based on matching the RFID. I'm going to show you another example now of getting data into a spreadsheet. So I'm going to create another sheet here. And one of the problems I often have with getting my feedback from JBS is that it comes through in this text file, which can't just be easily opened in Excel. It gets opened in a text editor. But what we can do is highlight the rows we want, and we've just got some stuff here from, this is the kill data. Obviously it's got lots of other summary stuff in this one text file, but if we highlight the stuff that kind of looks like a spreadsheet here, we can import this. And you can do this with the whole file, but it's a bit simpler just to cut and paste the rows you want. So I've just copied, and I'm going back to Excel, and I'm going to, instead of just hitting paste, Control V, what I'm going to do is look in this paste drop down and use the text import wizard. So mostly when we work with data, importing data into a spreadsheet, it's a comma separated variable, a CSV, and that's really straightforward. If you just double click that, it'll probably open in a spreadsheet anyway. What this format is fixed width. I'll tick that option here. You can see that by using monospaced fonts, they've basically got the columns aligning just by putting lots of spaces in there. So what I'm going to do is jump to the next stage in the wizard, and you'll see it sticks them where it thinks his columns should go. And it's done a pretty good job. The only thing it's done wrong is pick the space in our RFIDs. So I can, what to say here, to delete a break line, double click on the line. Okay, so I'm going to double click on this line, and it's gone. And the rest of that's going to be good enough because Excel is pretty clever at just ignoring blank space and interpreting numbers as numbers and text as text. I'm going to skip that last step because it's saying if you want to change the data format to be, and just click finish. And here it is. It's nicely put into our rows. So again, with this we could look up our RFID. I won't do it again, but you could then pull up something, a reference for your farm data or something like that to find out how they dressed and that sort of thing. You can manually just go and tidy up these headings. But I thought I'd just incorporate that little neat trick for you as well. What else? I was going to talk a little bit about RFIDs. So people sometimes ask me, why do we even have RFIDs in these things instead of just the NLIS ID? Well, it's because to make these nice and cheap and to have devices that can read them, it makes sense to use something that's a bit of an industry standard. So RFID is something that's used in warehouses and on pallets and boxes and security cards and things like that. So it makes sense to leverage something that exists out in industry beyond just Australian livestock. So yeah, basically the chip in here and the reader panels or the reader wands basically are just standard technology that look up that chip, get that single piece of data, and then it's up to the NLIS database to attach other more useful bits of data to the RFID code. So yeah, they're the 16-digit code. They always, the first 3 digits are for the manufacturer. So if you buy them from the same manufacturer all the time, they'll always start with the same 3 digits. Whereas the NLIS ID, also a 16-digit code, combines your PIC. This particular one I'm looking at here combines our PIC to U1, which is 3LD U170. X is for Allflex, the manufacturer. B is breeder tag, breeder ear tag. Q, the letter, it's the year it's manufactured, and Q0045 is the ID that I've given it for the particular animal. And that's another thing that a lot of people aren't onto, is that every year when you order your tags, it's really straightforward to set the starting serial, and that's a no-brainer for making stuff a bit more useful and usable in the NLIS database. It means you get a meaningful bit of data in the management tag column of the NLIS database. So what we do, and this is Q45's tag set, is that get the combined package of the tag and the printed tag aligned. Using letter codes for years is a really easy way of knowing what you're looking at in the paddock. Super legible and meaningful with just 1 digit. So yeah, can't recommend that strongly enough. So anytime you're ordering tags, whether it's online, you can specify your starting serial, or if you're doing it over the phone, tell them that's what you want. Even if the place where you're ordering doesn't let you tell them, ring up Allflex once your order's placed and tell them to look out for it and tweak it. We tweaked our management tags in our commercials this year to get our family name printed bigger, so that anytime stock is straying, it's super easy to pick. Hope some of that was useful, and if you've got any questions, you can find my contact details on our website. Love to hear from you, and you can find me on Twitter as BlackStarAngus, and yeah, feel free to pass this around to your friends or networks and send me some feedback. See ya.